Today's episode is all about the cadets and a day in the life. You can see them lining up there, getting ready for their early morning classes, which is why all the cadets are here, quite frankly. And then later in the day, you get a little break after class. You can make your way down to the mess hall, get some lunch, have some gourmet dining, of course, that we serve here at the mess hall. You know, you get your steak and eggs and, well, okay, maybe not steak and eggs, but you get, like, you know, fish and chips. Anyway, after lunch, you make your way up to the library for study hall. Got some great libraries here at the Air Force Academy. You can see the wonderful facilities. We got one of our freshmen going the wrong way down the stairs. Hey, man, class is the other way. Then after study hall, of course, you got workouts, physical training as we call it, and then, of course, practice to get ready for today's game. And, you know, it's a tough day, it's a tough life, but our cadets are up to the challenge. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the United States Air Force Academy, a football manager story with Zebu Nation. I hope you liked that intro where you saw our cadets kind of knocking around campus a little bit, because that leads very well into today's episode, where I want to take maybe a little bit deeper look at the club and the players, the roster, sort of show you who's who and what's what. You know, third episode in, maybe we should have done this a little earlier, but you know, we're being a little bit different these days. Anyway, let's take a look at the Air Force Academy. We haven't looked at these numbers yet, these star ratings for the Academy. Now, our reputation is obscure, which is a little bit disheartening. I talked about last episode about how everybody knows the Air Force, but I guess not everyone knows that the Air Force has a soccer team that you can come and play at and get an education while you're there. So our reputation is obscure. Our finances are secure, so that's good. That's, you know, you don't get many lower level teams, you know, amateur clubs with secure finances. So that's just a real benefit of playing in the NCAA. We don't have to worry about money really at all. Although we will a little bit, but we'll get to that. Basically, we'll get to that right now. We want to worry about money because we want to improve our facilities. The board already has plans to improve our stadium, which is going to be, you know, a big step towards improving our finances even more. Because the thing about most soccer programs, there are some exceptions, but for the most part, around the country, most soccer programs are what the NCAA, what the vernacular calls a non-revenue generating sport. Meaning they spend more money than they bring in. So usually at most major universities, the football program brings in like millions of dollars, and then they sort of spread those millions of dollars out to the rest of the sports. And, you know, usually the basketball program comes in a second place of maybe breaking even, or depending on the university, they could be a big revenue generator as well. And then the women's basketball teams can also be revenue generators, obviously depending on the schools, you know, UConn, Tennessee, places like that, Baylor, where the women's program is very good and makes a decent amount of money. But then usually most other sports below that don't generate enough revenue to actually pay for themselves. So the university has to pay for them. And that's where we're trying to get our soccer program away from. We're trying to make our soccer program a revenue generating sport, and hopefully we can do that. It's not a priority or anything like that, but it'd be something that's good to do. And my coach, Zebu Nation II, is kind of known for, you know, finances, because that's what we did with our Lansing Ignite. Maybe not incredibly successfully, but we were right there in a difficult situation. We did the best that was humanly possible in that situation. But anyway, that's what we want to do. We want to improve our facilities so that we can train these guys up even better. Because you know, at the Air Force Academy, we're all about training, right? That's what we're here for. And then our youth facilities, I don't know how much use we're going to get out of our youth facilities. We might have a plan for that in the future, but for now, we'll keep them at average. Average is still very good for this level. You know, most amateur and even a lot of pro teams We looked around USL League One. They didn't have average training facilities and average youth facilities. So, compared to most of the other soccer pyramid, we're ahead of the game. But we'd still like to improve that. Now, in terms of employees, of course, Zebu Nation II, we've looked at him before. He's our head coach, key employee. Captain Tucker Elbaum, we've looked at him before also. He is just crushing it this season. Interesting vice captain is our young goalkeeper, Guillermo Lopez, only 19 years of age, freshman this year. Very talented, as you can see, 3.5 stars, got a lot of potential. But right now, he's sort of fighting for his, well, not fighting for his job, but he's sharing the position. Let's put it that way. Put a little bit more, less competitive and more team-oriented. He's sharing the goalkeeping position right now, and we'll look at his goalkeeping partner, if that's a thing, a little bit later. And then, of course, our key player, Lewis Willis. This guy is an absolute beast. You look at him, he's up to 5 stars. We looked at him just earlier in the season, and he was 4.5 stars. I mean, his development is out of this world. Check out his progress over the year. All right, January. He was 3.5 stars in January, and he just blossomed. Here's the spring season in March. Went all the way up to 4.5 stars after just playing 7 games and a couple of friendlies. And then, he's had the similar skyrocket here. July, we start our season, and boom, he's up to 5 stars. I mean, this kid, I don't see how he doesn't go in the MLS draft unless he's just prevented from going because of his commitment here at Air Force. Although, in the past, other professional athletes who've gone through, specifically Air Force, but other academies as well. I believe there's been at least one Naval Academy football player, maybe a couple of Army guys. Well, definitely some Army guys in like the 40s and 50s and stuff like that. But anyway, the academies will let you out of your commitment or modify it in some way so that you can go get drafted and play in professional sports. Like they'll let you, instead of being in the Air Force, they'll let you go into the Air Force Reserve or the Air Force National Guard or something like that and do your commitment down there so that you can still play professional sports. Because that way they can tell recruits, like, hey, if you are professional level, you can still come to the Air Force, right? And if professional sports doesn't work out, you can fall back on the Air Force, but if it does work out, then we'll work with you. So it's sort of recruiting propaganda for them if they can get some professional players. And that would be outstanding if Lewis Wilson, it'd be bad for our team, of course, but it'd be great for our reputation if we could get a guy who's like #1 pick in the MLS draft. I don't see how he hasn't gotten any USA call-ups yet. He's got no under 20 games, no under 23s. That's got to change real soon. I don't see any other way around it. Anyway, those are our top players. A little bit about the club. Now let's take a look at the squad itself, because we need to do the good old roster breakdown. Anytime you manage a college sports team, you have to look at the roster and you have to break it down in terms of classes, right? You've got your senior class, junior, sophomore, and freshman classes that you recruit into your team. So we'll break it down that way by classes, and we'll break it down by birth date. So we're going to call our senior class the class of 1998, because that's when they were all born. You can see them all here. Right here, we got 10 seniors on the club. These are the guys you expect to be your team leaders and your guys who are mostly your starters, if not big contributors. And our senior class is looking pretty strong. Our senior class has been contributing very well. Only one of the 10 players isn't on the roster, really. Andre Edison is unregistered. He's a senior, 22 years old. He's really not up to our quality. I mean, he's very fast and quick. He's got great free kick taking in corners, so he can be a useful player if necessary in certain situations. But he's just not up to our standards, and he's what they would call in the NCAA a walk-on player or a non-scholarship player. So he doesn't have a scholarship, but he's still on the team. He's essentially a practice player for us. And so, we're still glad to have him in the program, but he's just not going to start for us anytime soon, or, he's not going to get a scholarship. What can I say? Now, the rest of the seniors are doing very well. Of course, led by E-Bomb, Tucker Album. He is outstanding right now. He is ruling the charts. Let's take a look at his career stats currently. 7 goals, 10 assists, 5 players of the matches, 8.05 rating. He is killing his senior season. I mean, look at his junior season. His junior season was pretty good. 6 goals, 5 assists in 24 games. That's pretty decent. But he's already blown that out of the water, and we haven't even started our conference season yet. So it's just as long as he doesn't get injured, cross your fingers, he's going to have an outstanding senior year, maybe even an All-American level of play. Then some other notable seniors: Frank Rietzema, one of our top central defenders. He's another interesting character in that he's not a big, towering, physical central defender, but he's just incredibly smart and brave, and he's just a very solid guy in the back line. Like, he gets us organized. He's our defensive general, if you will. He's the guy who gets everybody in the right position. He knows his position, and he just plays hard and plays smart. And I definitely notice it when he's not in there. He's had a little bit of injury problems and fatigue problems. When he's not in there, our defense is a little shakier than when he's in there. So we're definitely glad to have him on the back line. And then an interesting guy, Alec Pizzanotto, senior goalkeeper. He's the guy who is sharing our goalkeeping duties this season. And basically, he's a big, athletic goalkeeper, but he really only excels at one skill, which is stopping shots. He's got tremendous reflexes, tremendous agility, tremendous handling. So when he stops the shot, he doesn't lose it. He's just a great shot stopper. But he doesn't do anything else particularly well. He can get beat on some aerial balls, even though he's a big, tall guy with great jumping reach. His command and communication, his leadership, not quite as good as our young goalkeeper. But in terms of just straight ahead, keeping the ball out of the net, it's hard to keep a guy like this on the bench. So he's definitely getting some playing time as a senior. Another guy, a starting left midfielder, Jay Vines. He's played very well so far. He's a guy with nice speed and quickness out on the wing, some passing abilities, some crossing. He's just a good playmaker for us out on the wings. What are his stats looking like? He's got 3 assists on the season in only 10 starts. He's got a goal, 7.28 rating. So he's out there. He's playing his position well. He's not, putting up magnificent numbers, but they're already a little better than last season, where he played 23 games, 1 goal, 2 assists. So he's having a fine senior season, contributing very well. And then John Kane, another starter at left back, 22 years old. He's just another cerebral, smart defender out there. He's not, physically dominant or anything like that. He's decent tackling and marking, but really what he does is he's smart and he anticipates the game very well. So that's why he's in there as a senior. All right, now we'll go to our junior class, which our junior class is problematic because, let's see, our 20-year-olds here, the class of 2000, right? No, it's the class of 1999. It's so small I almost forgot it. Class of 1999, right here. 3 players. That's it. Our entire junior class is only 3 players, one of which is a walk-on, David Walker, central defender. He's not a terrible player. He's big and tall and can jump and can tackle, so he's at least useful. But right now he doesn't have a scholarship. He's just a practice player for us. And the other 2 guys are just sort of okay players, but the problem with having such a small junior class means next season we're going to have a small senior class, which means we're going to be looking for team leaders elsewhere in our underclassmen. So we're going to really need our underclassmen to come through next year. Now, the guy who's leading the junior class, all three of them, is Ruben Garza, starting on the right-hand side for us. He's been in and out of the starting lineup, but he's played pretty well. He's very quick out there. He's a decent athlete on the wing. He's got some nice skills, some technique. The mental part of the game, he could use some improvement, that's for sure. But in terms of just quickness and ability, he gives us something out there on the wing, so that's good. And then Milanakis is a left back, a guy who's gotten some playing time this year. He's just an okay guy. He's a very good leadership, sort of a feisty guy. At fullback, he's a good tackler. So again, he's a guy who can do something, and he's gotten in a couple of games this season, and he's played okay, but not really what we're looking for. These guys are going to have huge senior seasons, or they're going to get supplanted by some underclassmen. And junior class is a little bit small as well. So the class of 2000 has only 7 players in it. Where are they at? Right there? Yeah. Oh, I missed a couple. Okay, there they are. All right, so the class of 2000, again, a little bit smaller of a class, only 7 guys, but that's something interesting happened. I'm not exactly sure what happened or how, but it seems like 4 of our sophomores were redshirted. So we have a slightly larger freshman class. So that's why our sophomore class is a little bit smaller, but it's still a pretty good class. We got a couple of good players. We got 1 starter out of that class. We got Graham Shepard, the right back. He's similar to a lot of our other defenders. He's just a smart guy, makes good decisions, knows his position, can tackle, and can mark pretty well. Not the greatest athlete you've ever seen, but he does a good job out there at right back, and he's not going to make many mental mistakes. We do have 2 guys of the 7 who are walk-ons, so that doesn't help, going forward. Again, we're going to be relying on our underclassmen for the seasons to come, so we're going to really need those guys to come through, or we're going to be in trouble a few seasons from now. We also have another pretty decently talented guy who hasn't got much playing time, David Spencer, sophomore. Problem is he's an attacking midfielder, and we don't play attacking midfielders. So I'm trying to train this guy up as a midfielder, but he's just not having it for some reason. He is training well. He's just not adapting to a new position. He wants to be attacking center mid. He wants to be the old number 10, but we don't play number 10. So, we might have some issues getting this guy on the field, but right now he's just training as a sophomore, and we'll see what happens in the future. Now we've got our freshman class. Okay, the class of 2001, and it's a big class. Big class. 15 players. So like I said, we have 4 guys redshirt from our sophomore year, so that's why the guys are that's why the class is so big. You can see I tried to figure out what was going on, so I put notes next to all the freshmen, and then these other guys, the other 4 guys, are the guys who redshirted. So, we're relying on this class heavily right now, much more heavily than you would expect to rely on a freshman class. But that's just how the college cycle goes sometimes. Sometimes you get an outstanding freshman class and you've got to play them, or you're going to just sort of waste a season while you I don't know, stick to your principles or something. And what's interesting about this senior class, or this freshman class I should say, is it's the last class recruited by the previous coaching staff, and they had just come from back-to-back Western Athletic Conference championships. So that kind of shows you like the cyclical, what am I trying to say here? The cyclical like momentum of college sports, where you have some success and then you're able to build on that success with better recruiting classes, because players will see that, hey, you're winning championships, I want to be part of a championship program, so you're more likely to get better recruits. And we're seeing that, right, like the dividends in this class are outstanding. They're amazing, really. for 2 back-to-back championships, for getting in the NCAA tournament for 2 straight years, and then we get a recruiting class like this with some really phenomenal players, of course, starting with our main man, Lewis. I mean, we talked about this guy ad nauseum, but you just don't see freshmen like this very often. He is an amazing player, but he's not the only great player in this class. We got Billy Davis, starting central defender. Again, we've looked at this guy a little bit as well. He jumps out of the gym, 6'3", 14 heading. He got great teamwork and positioning. He's brave. He's everything you would want in a central defender. He really clears the skies for us, right? We call him the surface to air missile, the Sam, Billy Sam Davis, because he knocks everything out of the skies. You can't get past this guy on defense. And he's, again, just a freshman, 4 stars for us. He might not improve tremendously over his next 4 years, but if he stays at this level and gets a little bit better for our next 4 years, he's going to be an all-conference defender for 4 years, without a doubt. Then we've got our 2 starting midfielders currently, central midfielders. Ken Hundley, another just outstanding prospect. He's pretty quick for a midfielder. He makes great decisions. He's a good passer. He's got great technique. He can help out in the free kick area. It makes our special teams just extra strong when we've got all these guys who are good at free kick taking. And Hundley, as a freshman, is just outstanding. And then his partner in crime, Peter Vargas, 18 years old. He's our best defensive midfielder by far. Great tackling, tremendous work rate. Physically, he could be a little better, but technique and mental abilities are very, very strong for a freshman, strong enough to be a starter. Now, he does have some competition from a fellow freshman here, Brian Escobedo from Mexico. He's a guy who's incredibly talented, and we've got him in a few games. We're trying again to make him a central midfielder, which he's taking to that position a little better. But he's a guy who looks great right now. He's got some great ability with the ball at his feet. Problem is, he doesn't really fit in with our style particularly well, so we're trying to mold him a little bit to fit our style. But when push comes to shove, you got a guy this talented, you're going to have to play him, and you're going to have to find a way to use his talents rather than to mold his talents to your system. But for now, we've got options at midfield, so we can sort of work with this guy while we wait for his opportunity. So it's a very, very strong freshman class. That bodes well for the future when you look at our other classes, our juniors and sophomores. We're losing a lot of great players in our senior class, and our juniors and sophomores don't quite look up to the task. So we're going to really have to rely on this freshman class, and also our first recruiting class, our incoming freshmen for next year. We also look like having a pretty strong class. Now, we looked at our... who was our top pick? I've already forgotten his name. We haven't really looked at these guys that much. It was Steve Norris was our top rookie. And let's see, where is he? There he is. So, yeah, the left back, Steve Norris. So we're going to be fine at left back with this guy coming in next season. No problems there. But we've also got some pretty decent midfielders coming in. Sean Morris is a guy, when I first looked at this recruiting class, I thought he was going to be our best player. And he's still pretty strong. He's very versatile. He's got some nice skills and technique. He's got, he works hard. So he's a guy who can help us out in the midfield. When you look at the freshman class we have with the midfield, and then with our next year's class also being strong in the midfield, we're going to have to find a way to fit all these midfielders onto the field, and I don't know if we can. Another guy, we got another good left back, Danny Hunter, so maybe one of these guys might have to slide to the right side. He's a physical beast at 6 foot tall. He's got a lot of great athletic ability. Technically he's a little behind the times, but we're going to have to find a place for this guy somewhere. If it's not going to be at left back, might have to be right back. Maybe we'll move somebody to central. I don't know. Norris can play central defense as well, so we might move him there. Then we got another great striker coming in. We're losing one of our top strikers. We've got some other good strikers on the team, but Alan Laughlin is just another goal-scoring machine. Look at this guy. He's incredibly fast, incredibly quick, great flair, first touch, finishing. He's another goal-scoring machine. So even if we do lose our other strikers, we got more guys coming in behind him. So I think the future is looking strong with Air Force right now, with our freshman class this year and our incoming class next year. I think the program's looking very good. Now, who's going to guide those young freshmen and is going to be our coaching staff. Now, interestingly, we do have a pretty small coaching staff. Even though we do have a pretty decent budget, we don't always get to hire a lot of staff members. It's sort of the politics of being a non-revenue sport, a non-revenue generating sport, is that they'll look at you and say, well, we're putting so much money into the sport, we don't have even more money to give you coaches. So it's sort of backwards, where it looks like we have a lot of money, but politically we don't have the clout to spend that money. So we are a little bit understaffed with only 5 coaches. It's still pretty decent, but it could be better. Let's take a look at the coaching team. Of course, Zebu Nation, we've looked at him before. Very good attacking and defending, good technical coach. And we have our assistant coach, Joe Ego. Hopefully we can work on this guy's personality a little bit. He was here when we got here. He's got a National C license. He's a jovial kind of guy. He's good at a press conference. But we could really use an upgrade at the assistant coaching position. He doesn't add a lot to the staff, unfortunately, other than a few good jokes in the locker room. Head of Youth Development, David Leonard. This guy's been bringing in some pretty good recruits, so we're not going to bash him. Great working with youngsters, judging player abilities, pretty good, determination, pretty good. And then we went out, we got a goalkeeping coach, and we got a fitness coach. We got Joel Brody, 33 years old, great working with youngsters. Decent goalkeeping coach. He's not the greatest, but he's sort of the best that we could find at short notice, because we took over the team just at the end of the season, and we didn't have a ton of time before we had to sign some coaches. So we might work on improving the coaching staff as well. We also got Mitch Hay in, the fitness coach. Again, sort of the best that would come to us at the time. Maybe after a year under our belts and we've got a little more seniority, a little more stability, we can go out and get a better coach, and maybe a couple more coaches, at least one more. I'd like to get one more general coach to sort of help me out in certain areas, but right now, Zebu Nation is the top coach on the team. So we also have a little small recruiting team. Nobody wants to come and be the general manager at Air Force because they're going to have no power, no authority to do anything. So we couldn't even find. We put out an advertisement and got no responses back, 0 responses. So it's gonna be hard to find a general manager. Not that we necessarily need one. We do have a chief scout and two working scouts, I guess you would call us. So our chief scout, David Robinson, not that David Robinson, not the Admiral. This is the the Air Admiral. But yeah, he's pretty decent. He's not very adaptable. He only knows the U.S., which is fine. That's really what we're looking for anyway. He's got decent judging of abilities. And then John Ramirez, pretty good. He's of equal level to our head scout, so he's okay. But he's much more adaptable. So he's a guy maybe we could send to Canada or Mexico or someplace like that and have him find a few more players for us. And then Dominic Jekobek, 40 years old, our oldest scout, probably our best scout, I guess. Good at judging player potential. Very disciplined, decent adaptability. So he's a guy just, can give us a few more eyes out there on the road. So, I think it's a good enough scouting staff for what we need. We just need somebody to we need one guy to scout for prospects, and we need one guy to scout our next opponent, and that's really the minimum we need. And then we have one head physio and one physio. We went the entire spring season without a physio. So we had to pick up Catherine Wynn, physio. Perhaps she's a physio. There she is. She's got her military haircut. 7 physiotherapy. You know, we could do a little better, but this is kind of what we had to choose from. And then our head physio, Phil Smith, 10 physiotherapy, so he's a little bit better, which I guess that's why he's the head physio. But yeah, so, you know, we'd like to improve our facilities, we'd like to improve our staff a little bit. Our recruits are looking good. So I think overall, Air Force is in a strong position going forward. So that's going to be it for this episode. It's a little bit longer than what I would have wanted, but, you know, I tend to blab on. Anyway, that's going to do it for today's episode. We'll come back next time with our competitions and some games, hopefully. So until then, we'll see you.